Autumn 2003, Manchester. Girls began disappearing in the city. Young women, mostly students or bar workers. They were found neither alive nor dead. The police tried to connect the disappearances, but every lead went cold. The only thing they had in common, all of them were walking home, late at night. The press called the killer the Hunter. That's what journalists nicknamed him. After 3 months of searching, an abandoned warehouse was found on the outskirts of the city. Inside were the personal belongings of 2 missing girls, bags, shoes, and scraps of clothing. Forensics detected traces of blood, but the bodies were not there. On the warehouse wall, someone had carved with a knife, "If you are looking for me, look at night." The police increased patrols, but the killer seemed to know their routes. In December, another girl went missing, Sophie Miller. A surveillance camera recorded her at 11:41 p.m. She was walking along an empty street. For a second, the shadow of a tall man in a black jacket appeared beside her. 5 minutes later, the footage cut out. The camera cable had been severed. This audacity caused panic in the city. People were afraid to go out in the evening. The case was led by Detective Inspector Michael Harrison, experienced but exhausted. His daughter attended university and was the same age as the victims. He worked around the clock, reviewing hundreds of hours of video and questioning witnesses. One day, they found a witness, a homeless man who had seen a man on an old railway bridge. He was carrying a sack and muttering to himself. When the police searched the area, they found a pit under the bridge filled with lime. Inside were human bones. Harrison insisted on monitoring payphones and checking all calls to the police. A week later, an anonymous call came in. A male voice said only one sentence: "You're looking in the wrong place." The voice was distorted, but a train could be heard in the background. At that time, the train ran on only one line, near an abandoned industrial zone. The police set up an ambush. At night, they spotted a man, tall, thin, wearing a hood. He carried a sack over his shoulder. The police tried to apprehend him, but he dropped the sack and fled into the tunnels. Inside the sack were women's belongings and ropes. The chase ended in failure. He knew the tunnels better than any officer. A week later, another girl disappeared, the daughter of Harrison's colleague. This became personal. The detective realized the killer was deliberately toying with them, luring the police to him. Harrison decided to take a risk. He went alone into the industrial zone and entered an old factory. There, he found a room filled with televisions. On the screens were recordings of the girls he had been looking for. Each recording ended with the camera falling. A voice came from behind. "Finally, we meet, Inspector." The killer stood with a knife. His face was hidden behind a welder's mask. He spoke calmly. "I don't kill for pleasure. I kill because they are all the same. Noisy, useless. The city is full of them, and you just get in the way." Harrison tried to shoot, but the killer threw an iron rod at him. The wounded detective fell to the floor. The killer raised the knife, but at that moment, a SWAT team burst in. They had tracked Harrison via GPS. He knew he might not come back. The man was arrested. His name was George Hunt, a former railway workshop worker. His wife had left him many years ago, after which he lived alone in abandoned factories. In his hideout, they found the belongings of 10 missing girls, but most of the bodies were never recovered. Hunt remained silent during interrogations. Only once he said to Harrison, "I'm not finished yet." years later, disappearances began again in Manchester. At one of the locations, someone had carved the words, "If you're looking for me, look at night." Every city has buildings where people rarely stay for long. Apartments where tenants move in and out quickly, prices are suspiciously low, and neighbors avoid talking too much. Anna, a crime journalist, was used to working with facts, not superstitions. But when she heard about a strangely cheap apartment on the outskirts of Moscow, she decided to investigate. Locals whispered that apartment 4 on the 3rd floor never kept its tenants for long. The real estate agent showed her around. It's bright. Everything works. The owner lives abroad. That's why it's so cheap, he explained. But on the 3rd floor, the air was damp, the walls were stained, and the bulb above the door of apartment 4 flickered endlessly. Inside, it looked ordinary. A small kitchen, an empty living room, an old bedroom with a massive mirrored wardrobe. Yet, the moment Anna stepped inside, she felt uneasy, as if someone was watching her from the shadows. Anna decided to stay overnight for the sake of her article. She brought a sleeping bag, a recorder, and a camera. Around 1 a.m., the camera on its tripod captured faint footsteps in the corridor. The door was locked, yet a human-shaped shadow passed by. Later, the wardrobe creaked open by itself. When Anna rushed to check, it was empty. Only her reflection in the mirror, warped, strange, almost unfamiliar. The next day, Anna questioned the neighbors. A frail old woman finally spoke. Back in the 80s, a woman lived there with her son. The boy went missing. She searched for him for years, until she hanged herself in that very apartment. Since then, no one stays there for long. Anna set up recorders around the rooms. The next morning, when she played them back, her blood froze. In the silence, a child's voice whispered her name. Anna opened the wardrobe. That night, she woke to freezing cold. Frost coated the walls. The wardrobe stood wide open again, and in the mirror, she saw a pale boy with hollow eyes staring at her. But when she turned around, no one was there. On the 4th night, it escalated. The camera recorded the wardrobe opening wide. A child's figure stepped out and stopped right beside Anna's sleeping bag. She woke to hear a whisper right in her ear. "You'll stay with us." Panicked, Anna ran for the door, but the lock wouldn't budge. Mirrors all around her began to shudder. Reflections multiplied. A woman with a rope around her neck, a boy in the corner, and countless twisted faces whispering in unison, "Don't leave. Don't leave." Ghostly hands stretched out from the glass, reaching for her. When neighbors finally called the police after hearing screams, the apartment was empty. No signs of Anna, but her camera was still running. On the final recording, Anna lunges at the mirror, only to be pulled inside. Her reflection thrashes against the glass for a few seconds, and then vanishes. Since then, apartment 4 remains vacant. The agent still offers it at a very good price. But he warns, no one ever lasts more than a week inside. America, the state of Maine, a small coastal town. Tourists came here in summer to breathe the ocean air, to see the lighthouse and the old streets. But the locals always avoided one building, the Harper Hotel. It had stood abandoned for more than 50 years, and with each passing year, it looked more and more dead. Cracked walls, shattered windows, a roof sagging under the weight of time. Legend said that in the 1960s, an entire family vanished there, a husband, wife, and their daughter. They had checked in for the weekend, but in the morning, the staff found only an empty room with the door wide open. No signs of struggle, no belongings, no bodies, nothing. After that, the hotel closed, and rumors about ghosts spread throughout the town. In 2018, a young journalist named Emily Jones arrived. She worked for an independent online magazine and loved investigating urban legends. When she heard about the Harper, she decided to film a report. She began with the archives. The family's disappearance really had been mentioned in newspapers back in the 60s. The police had found nothing. The case was closed. Locals refused to talk. They just shook their heads and muttered, "Don't mess with that place." But Emily didn't back down. On a cold October evening, she entered the hotel with a camera and a flashlight. The creaking door opened with a single push. Inside, the air smelled of damp, mold, and dust. The wallpaper was peeling, the carpets rotted, the staircase groaned beneath her steps. Emily turned on the camera and narrated, "Tonight, I'm exploring the Harper Hotel. They say you can still hear the footsteps of those who vanished 50 years ago." She walked through the corridors, lighting up the decayed rooms. In one, everything looked as if the guests had just left. A rusty suitcase in the corner, an old dress on a hanger. On the wall, a child's drawing, faded but still visible. A little girl holding hands with her parents, and behind them, a dark shadow. Emily felt a chill, but kept filming. On the second floor, her flashlight flickered and died. The camera switched to night vision, and in its green glow, she saw movement. At the end of the hallway stood a girl, about 10 years old. White dress, long hair, hiding her face. "Hey, who are you?" Emily whispered. The girl slowly turned and vanished, dissolving into the air. Emily rushed forward, but the hallway was empty. Only a half-open door with a peeling sign, Room 6. She pushed it open and stepped inside. 2 beds covered in dust, a dresser with a cracked mirror. But the walls were the worst part, covered in dozens of scratched words. "We are here. It won't let us go. Help." Then, a whisper. The camera didn't catch it, but Emily heard it clearly. "Will you play with us?" In the mirror flashed a shadow, a woman's figure with a twisted face. Emily screamed, bolted from the room, and ran down the stairs. But the closer she got to the exit, the more the building warped around her. Corridors stretched unnaturally. Doors swapped places. Her flashlight came back on and lit up a family, a man, a woman, and the little girl, their faces pale, eyes black and hollow. "Stay with us," they whispered in unison. Emily ran to the entrance, but the door was sealed shut, as if it had never existed. She beat on the walls in panic, while the camera recorded everything. The last thing it captured was a pale child's hand resting on her shoulder. A week later, local teenagers found her camera at the hotel's doorstep. The recording ended with a blood-curdling scream. Emily herself was never seen again. And now, those who dare to watch the footage claim, in the final seconds, in the broken mirror of Room 6, you can see a new figure, a woman holding a camera, and she's staring straight at the viewer.